There's something that happens to music a lot of people around a certain point in their lives. Not a breakdown, nothing that dramatic. Music, more like a quiet realization that creeps up on you when things go still enough for you to actually hear it. And the realization is this, that stomach of what you've been doing, so much off the energy you've been spending, music has been pointed outward toward other people, toward how you're landing with music them, how you're coming across, whether they walked away from you thinking the right things. And when you see that clearly for the first time, it's uncomfortable because you realize just how music long it's been gone. Most of us were never taught to notice this about ourselves. We just music absorbed it. From early on, the world gave us signals. Music, someone's face would shift and we'd panic. Someone would go quiet and we'd run through everything we said, trying music to find the thing that caused it. And slowly, without ever making a music-conscious decision about it, we started organizing our behavior around those signals, around the reactions of other people, around the imagined version music of what they were thinking. And we just kept living like that, for years sometimes. The strange thing is it doesn't feel like fear when you're inside it. It just feels like being a reasonable person, being thoughtful, being someone who's aware of how they affect the people around them. But there's a version of that which is music genuinely considerate. And then there's a version that is just anxiety with better posture. And a lot of us have music been living in the second version without realizing it. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in his private journal that stayed with me. He said that you have power over your mind and not the music outside world. And that once you really understand that, not just as an idea, but music as something you feel, you find a kind of strength that nobody can take from you. And what strikes me about that isn't the insight itself because it sounds simple enough. What music strikes me is that he was writing it down for himself. He wasn't performing it. He was a man with more power than almost anyone in history. And he still had to remind himself of this. Still had to write it down and come back to it because it's genuinely hard to live, which means if you struggle with it, you're not weak. You're just human. Here's the thing that actually changes everything. Music, though. The people whose opinions you've been quietly managing your life around, music, they're not thinking about you the way you think they are. And I don't mean that as a dismissal. I mean it literally. They are inside their own version of exactly music what you're doing. They're worried about how they came across in the same conversation you're replaying. Music, they're running their own quiet calculations about whether they said too much or not enough. Everyone is doing this. Everyone is the most self-conscious person in every room they walk into. And so the audience you've been playing to your whole life is largely an audience if that's too music, busy being its own audience to pay you the attention you've been afraid of. When that really lands, it does something to you. Because suddenly all that weight music you've been carrying around, all those imagined judgments, they start to feel a little less solid, a little less worth organizing music your entire life around. And in that space, something comes back to you. This quiet sense of your own opinion of yourself, which sounds obvious, but if you've spent a long time outsourcing that, getting it back feels almost foreign at first. You make a decision, and you notice you're waiting for someone else to confirm it was right. You do something you're proud of, and music, you catch yourself wanting to show it to someone before you even let yourself feel music good about it. The habit runs deep, but once you see it, you can start to gently unwind it. Epictetus talked about this, about the difference music between the things inside your control and the things that aren't. And he wasn't just talking music about big dramatic events. He was talking about the texture of daily life, the looks people music give you, whether someone responds warmly or coldly, whether you're included or left out, whether they think well of you. All of that, he said, music is outside the circle. And he wasn't saying ignore it or pretend it doesn't sting when it goes the wrong way. He was saying don't build your foundation there, because that ground is always shifting. Music, other people's mood shift. Their attention shifts, their opinions of you can change based music on things that have nothing to do with you. And if your sense of yourself is built on top of that, then you're going to feel every tremor. But when music, you build it on something internal, on your own values, your own honest assessment of how you're living, that doesn't move. Someone can be cold to you, and it doesn't rewrite your sense of who you are. You feel it, of course, you feel it, but it passes through you rather than settling in. That's the version of not caring that's actually worth aiming for. Not the closed-off nothing gets in version, because that's not freedom. That's just music, a different kind of prison. The real version is more like things still reach you. People still matter to you. You're still fully present, music, in your relationships, but your identity isn't up for grabs anymore. It's not on the table waiting to be shaped by whoever's in the room. And relationships, oddly enough, actually get better when music you get there. Because when you stop needing people to constantly reassure you, when you stop coming to them with that invisible ask underneath everything music, you say, you become genuinely easier to bear around. People, music, can feel the difference between someone who's present with them and someone who's performing for them. And the connections that form when you're actually music present, when you're not quietly auditioning, those are the ones that actually hold. The practical side of this isn't some overnight transformation. It's small and it's steady. It's catching yourself about to make a music choice based on how it'll look and pausing to ask what you actually want instead. It's letting something sit without immediately needing someone else's take, music on it. It's finishing a day and measuring it against your own sense of how it went rather than the number of times someone made you feel music good about yourself. Marcus Aurelius came back to this question his whole life. He wrote once that it's a waste, music, of time to ask what a good man is when you could just be one. And I think what he meant was that the analysis, the constant outward checking, music, the monitoring of how you're perceived, it eats up the time and energy that could just go into living well, into music being the person you already know how to be if you'd get out of your own way long enough to do it. Accepting that no one cares isn't a music cold thing. It's not about hardening yourself or deciding that connection doesn't matter. It's about finally genuinely releasing the part of music, you that's been on guard this whole time. The part that's been scanning every interaction for threats, for signs that you've fallen in someone's estimation, music for proof that you're okay. That part ice exhausted. It has music been exhausted for a long time. And it has never once given you the thing it promised, which was the feeling that you're finally permanently enough. That feeling doesn't come from out there. It never did. And the moment you stop looking for it out there, music, and start building it from the inside, something shifts. Nothing around you changes, but the way you move through everything does. Music, you make choices that are actually yours. You stop waiting for permission. Music, you stop shrinking. And you start slowly and genuinely, music, to feel like your own life actually belongs to you, which is the only place it was ever going to come from anyway.